Hey everyone, it's the top 10 of the top 100, finally! Sorry about this whole face thing, but apparently I was so happy and giddy to do this list that unfortunately my face scared some small children and it got flagged by YouTube censorship. So sadly you'll just have to put up with this face for at least the intro to this video while I calm down a little bit and get over the excitement, you know. Honestly, YouTube bots will just go after anything these days. So yes, this is the top 10 of my top 100. 100 games I've gone through. We're now up to the final 10. There have been some movers, shakers, some have left, a few have entered. In fact, we've actually got 2 debuts still to go on this list. Will my number 1 still be my number 1? Has it shifted finally? You'll find out now. Let's get on with it. The top 10 Broken Meeple games. Ah, good, you can see me again. Right, we'll try not to creep out the children, okay? So, this is my number 10, and we're going to start off with a big shocker first. This is the game I mentioned before that has climbed, this is like the second highest climber in the list, that wasn't one that has returned to the list. 25 places from 35 this one has climbed. I think it's been in the list every year since it's come out, but what game would I have liked so much and then suddenly still jump it 25 places? What happened? Well, this Euro game was one that I feel needs a sequel to. It has some of the best artwork I have ever seen in a game. And for a while I've played it and I've really enjoyed it even when the first expansion for it came out. But then when the second expansion for it came out, it fixed the one issue I had with the base game, and now the game is pretty much perfection in a box, providing you take 1 or 2 little modular aspects out. I can't think of a game off the top of my head that is more beautiful than this right now, especially when you want to think of yourself as under the sea. Yes. Abyss. 35, now 10. And it's down to that Leviathan expansion. I love this game and it has gotten better for me ever since I started playing it. You know, it would have climbed up to the 20s, I suspect, normally, but Leviathan just owned it. Basically what Leviathan did is that in the base set there was this threat track. You had a sort of a monster fish or whatever that came out of the depths every now and again, and pretty much all you did was say, okay, I'm going to kill it, you level up this track, or you take the reward. That was it. But the thing is, there was no incentive to let it level up because the chances of you being able to get that big reward was pretty slim, and it was so swingy if someone else got it. It was a very pointless addition to the game. Unfortunately, you couldn't really get rid of it, but it was small enough that it didn't hamper my overall enjoyment of the game. Now, Leviathan takes that track out of the game and replaces it with a new board that has Leviathan monsters popping up every now and again. But you can go and fight these monsters properly when you explore the depths. You use your allies like you do with recruiting lords. Some allies are better than others. You need certain ones for certain Leviathans. And when you wound them or kill them, you get to take these tokens which can either be victory points or bonuses such as pearls and keys, etc. And then on top of that, if you have killed Leviathans, if you have the most, you have this really cool statue of, you know, like a, kind of looks like, what's his name, Orion or whatever from Little Mermaid, you know, the Lord with the Trident, kind of looks like him. But he's, you know, he's there standing on top of a corpse and on a rock, and he gets you a bonus 5 points at the end. That just completely fixes the worst part about the original game. That threat track. It's now gone, you don't use it, you use the Leviathan board instead. And the rules for it are so simple that you just teach it with the base game. I teach everything in this now. The Kraken expansion, the Leviathan expansion, everything gets taught out of the box. Because frankly, the rules are not that complicated and the game is so much more enjoyable. I only leave out 2 things. 1, 5th player. Don't care, stupid, don't want to play this with 5 players, too long. Broken record. And the other thing is the loot deck. It came in the Kraken expansion. It was a push your luck mechanic where you could go into this cave and push your luck to try and get rewards. It was too swingy, too lucky, and very pointless addition. Barely even came up. Sometimes it would never come up in a game. That's how kind of pointless it was. So I just leave it out. It's only a module. It's not essential, so it's gone. Everything else about this. I love the artwork, I love the mechanics, I love the variety now with the expansion included. I've now got the corrupted currency, like with the Lords of Waterdeep thing, you know, you've now got black pearls. Every time I teach this, it goes over well. Did I mention how beautiful it is? I know he doesn't look beautiful, but, you know, the artwork in this game, I know you can't see it, but It's so beautiful, and I really want a sequel to this. I so want a sequel to this. It's just, it's just dying for something else, you know. I mean, come on, we had Founders of Gloomhaven. Come on, could we not have like Founders of Abyss or something? I don't know. You know, this is a game that you want a sequel in. You know, and I don't want no 3-hour heavy Euro about putting chits on the board. No, no, no. I want something that is as exciting as this one. I love it. Multiple paths to victory, multiple ways to get points. Just simple to learn, simple to teach, but just feels really engaging. There is something about this game that just sings to me. And, you know, well, sings to me, yeah, literally under the sea. But, oh, love it. It is just creeped into my top 10. Is it going to stay there? We don't know, but it's definitely like a top 25 game from now on at this point because, you know, even without any more expansions. I'll take more expansions, you know, give me more cards, I'm happy. But even if it was just how it is now, love it. It's shot up from a 9 to a 10 for me. I love this game. Underrated. Abyss. Number 9 is the first debut to the list. Yes, to debut at number 9 is super impressive, but not as impressive as the one that's yet to come. But this one I bought solely on recommendation from Sam Healey. Not a personal one from him to me, just the fact that he put it on several of his lists. You know, he's a fan of Emperor S4 games, and I just thought, I've barely even heard of this card game. But you keep talking about it, it sounds cool, it's cheap. I managed to find it at I think I bought it when it came back into print, but it comes back into print and then just goes. It's that fast. It's small, compact, but my God, even though you only do 4 actions every round, boy does it hurt your brain when you're trying to think of which action you want to do. It's all the choices you do are tense, engaging, and painful because you don't want to do any of the actions at any particular time, but you have to, and you have to think of the best way to go about it. Such a simple, beautiful little card game. Hanami Koji. Yes, I think that's the pronunciation. This little card game shoots up to my number 9. I don't even have to play this game to enjoy it. I just watch people go through that painful decision making. But yeah, if I get a chance to play this, I am jumping straight in. And for a 2-player game to get this high, and it won't be the last 2-player game you'll see on this list, but, you know, just, it's so good. I love this one. I mean, if you can get a copy, wait for it to come back into print, go to Essen, go to a convention, try and find a copy of this, and I urge you to get it. Even if you're not a fan of it, you will be able to sell it on, trade it on, it's cheap enough, and there's a lot of fans out there for this. But with this one, you are trying to get geisha, and, you know, I know the theme's a little bit Jose, but you're trying to win favor over different geisha. But you have cards. Each geisha has a certain number of cards attributed to them, and the idea is that you have 4 actions. Each person has the same 4 actions, and you will do all 4 in a round. But the order you do it is up to you. And there are things like, you know, save a card for scoring later, scrap 2 out the round, put 3 on the table, you pick 1, I get the other 2, 2 pairs on the table, you pick a pair, I get a pair. It's a lot of that I pick, you choose mechanic, which is such a good yet painful way to make decisions in any game. Because you've got to give your opponent at least 3 cards during the round. You don't want to give them anything. So you've got to try and give them stuff that they don't need or won't be much use to them. But when do you do it? Early? Late? You know, when do you save a card for scoring? Do you do it now when you've got 7 cards in your hand and you've got a good amount of options? Or do you wait till the last minute when you're literally top decking the one that you're going to save and hope for the best? You never feel like you've done it in the right order. But there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's based on what favour you've got with the geisha and that, and what the opponent's doing. And on top of this game never usually lasts more than, 3 rounds? So 1, 2 or 3 rounds tops. I've never had it go beyond 3. And with this, when you finish a round, the favours stay on the respective sides. So originally it's like, alright, whoever has the most cards on their side gets the geisha. Once you get into the 2nd and 3rd round, though, it's not so straightforward, because now a tie doesn't move the favour token. So suddenly, with your opponent, if my opponent has favour over this particular geisha, it's now harder for me to win it back. So I've got to put in more effort. Same goes for the ones that I have favour with. Are the ones that are still undecided, worth going for? There's 2 ways to win. It's tense. Every time I teach this, I have a blast. The artwork is drop dead gorgeous. There is just something about how pretty a game looks that does appeal to me. And let's face it, yeah, I want the game to be visually appealing if it's one I'm going to bring out all the time. But even without the artwork, the mechanics of this, how simple it is, how hard it is to really master this, and even then, there's a little element of push your luck and a little gambling, so it's not like, the better player will win all the time. There is a way for others to catch up, but so simple, but cheap, portable, 2 players, not many components, but it just works so well. This is the best recommendation I've ever had from watching the Dice Tower on any video, I think. I think all the other ones coming up, I already knew I liked, so that wasn't a problem. This one though, Sam Healey, yeah, he's right. This is a fantastic game. Hanamakoji, number 9. And number 8 is another fairly big riser. It's rise 7 places. So it was 15, now it's it's risen, get my grammar right, all the way up until number 8. And with this one, I'm not entirely certain why it's raised, a lot compared to last year. But every time I play this game, I do get a big kick out of it. I like the multiple ways you can win, I like the elegance of it, and the one expansion it has had certainly did improve the options for me. It took out the timing aspect, where it was like, I do something, you do something, I do something, you do something. With the expansion, you can now throw that timing off kilt, and that makes a huge decision when picking your cards. We've always said that Seven Wonders sucks as a 2-player game. Not if you get this version. Seven Wonders Duel. You get this version and you have the 2-player experience that Seven Wonders should be. With this one, you've got that familiar iconography. Some rules have changed, but for the most part, you are drafting cards from this weird onset pyramid, and you're trying to get the most victory points via, getting the blue cards, the purple cards, the green cards, etc. But there's some subtle differences. The way money works is a lot more tighter in this game, because you can make things really expensive for your opponents and nick money off them at times. But the other thing I like is the science and military auto victories. Yeah, you can carry on to the end and score up points, and 75% of the time that's probably how it will work. But you cannot ignore the threat of the military and science victories. If you get, I think, 6 different symbols for science out of these tokens you collect, you get duplicates, you get bonuses, but if you get 6 different ones, you auto win on science. And if your military goes up this track further all the way to the opponent's side, you win by military victory. I have occasionally won by both of those. I win mostly by points, but I have done it with the auto victories. And the main thing is because both players should be aware of them, chances are you'll go to points, but you can't ignore them. The second you go, you know what, I don't really care about the Reds, I'll just ignore them for the whole game, your opponent's picked them all up, and before you know it, he's already halfway across your military board, and you're going to struggle to win the game because it will just auto-military victory you. So you have to fight back, and there's a lot of tense back and forth with those 2 victories, and even just the cards themselves. Because you'll pick a card, and you don't want to reveal the face-down ones to your opponent. So you want to pick a card that's useful, that you can afford, but you also don't want to flip over a bunch of cards and give your opponent great options. And then the expansion just came out, Pantheon, and I know it's a divisive one, not everyone's a fan of it, but I personally really liked it. It gave you these god cards that at various stages during the first and second rounds, you ended up with these god cards and they got set up in this Pantheon board. And the idea is that you can pay money on your turn instead of doing a normal pick up a card action and trigger the power. And the power is ranged depending on the type of god it is. You get a different variety of gods every game, so that's always cool. The tokens you pick up can give you a discount on certain gods, and the decision to where to put the god on the Pantheon is important, because you can make it really cheap for yourself, but really expensive for the opponent, make it a balance, or perhaps I pick up a god and it's like, you know what, I'm not going to use this, I'll make it really cheap for you, because I don't care about it. So, if you don't want it, tough, but I certainly don't, so I'll make it expensive, so that hopefully a good god will become cheaper. But what I said about changing the timing, normally, I pick a card, you pick a card, I pick a card, you pick a card. You can almost game the system a little bit with that. But with the gods, you throw a spanner in the works. Because if you use a god power, you don't take a card. So it's like, I really don't want to take that card. It's okay, but I'm going to flip over 2 more cards for the opponent. I really don't want it. Hang on, I got a bit of spare money. I'll trigger that god power, get some cool bonus, and then because my opponent can't afford to do that, they have to take the card. And now I get the options. Just that extra little element of messing around with timing really elevated this game enough to bring it onto my top 10. But it was already 15. I already love this game. It's, you know, it's not the easiest thing to teach to someone if they've never played Seven Wonders before, but it's not impossible. You know, you are just talking, you know, the iconography is the main hurdle. Apart from that, the rules are actually fairly straightforward. But if you've got two people who know this game well, or have played Seven Wonders before, woo, you get a nice tense battle here. And I have had some very close games where my brain hurts and you just really get into it. It can be as slow or as long as you want. Doesn't matter. It's engaging all the way through. This is how Seven Wonders for two players should have been. My number 8. And my number 7 is the last of the debuts. This is the highest debut in the entire top 100. What game could it possibly be? It's a Euro game. It's not quite heavy, it's medium weight. It has a very weird retro colour scheme to it, which is divisive to many. It has a theme that pretty much just sings to anybody who has seen the original films. What could it be? What could it be? It's Jurassic Park the game. Yep, it is Dinosaur Island. Dinosaur Island, love this. I'm not, to be fair, I don't normally go mad for, you know, Gilmore games or even Pandasaurus to an extent, but something about this game just sang. You know, firstly, the theme. It's building a Jurassic theme park. What more do you need for a fun theme in a game? If you like the movie, then great, you've got it in the game now. The colour scheme, it's divisive for some, but I quite like it. It makes me feel like it's like retro neon 80s style look. You know, kind of, you saw all that neon stuff in Thor Ragnarok. You know, they didn't go full on pink and purples everywhere, but they used a lot of retro 80s style, you know, montage effects with the trailer and the movie. This is basically like doing the same thing, except now you're using the pink and purple neon effects and putting it into a board game. It's divisive for some, but personally I quite like it. It just gives it a nice unique look, and it's still very colourful. But other than just the theme, the mechanics of this are just so streamlined. It's perfect. You have 4 phases of the game, and they just flow smoothly. It's labelled as to which ones you do, and it's pretty much like, here's your first board. You've got your scientist, worker placement, take a die, take a dinosaur recipe. Done. Move on to the second phase. Take 2 of these various market tiles. Workers, theme park attractions, dinosaur lab upgrades, that kind of thing. Pay the money, get the tile. Easy. Third phase, you know, simultaneously do a little worker allocation in your lab to do various things. Again, straightforward, everyone just does it at the same time. And then fourth, draw some workers out of a bag, stick them in your park, get money, get VPs. It's so simple. Rinse, repeat. Do for multiple rounds, try and get the objectives, try and build up a park. For some reason, for something that I expected to be far more complex, and even, I will say, the rulebook actually probably makes it sound a bit more complex than it actually is. With some of us, we can just zoom through these rounds, and we're just having a blast. We're getting into the theme, we're making references to Jurassic Park, we're taking the mick out of each other's parks, you know, cursing each other for taking our recipes or various park attractions, and with the objectives, they come out and vary the game as well, and I really like those plot twists. You put 2 plot twists in every game, and they can have subtle or pretty major changes, but they come out in a different combination of 2, and they just basically mess up a rule. You wanted to hire 3 workers this game, now you can only hire 1 ever. You want DNA to be easily available? Well, now it is. You know, you get even more DNA when you take the dice. Oh, now there's a massive restriction on security. You know, there's all sorts of these, and they just change up the game nicely. It even has a good solo mode that I can take advantage of, which is quite tricky, but it's a nice way to practice the game and just enjoy building up a park. I will say you must play a long game of this, and I don't often say that. The short game is good if you want to learn the rules. That's it. Other than that, the short game sucks. Medium is okay, but even then I'd be touch and go as to whether I'd want to play the medium game. You really want to play the long game. Let it take a couple of hours. I mean, a couple of hours is not that long for a Euro. I'm happy with a 2-hour length for a decent meaty Euro. And the long game ensures that you have time to build up your park, see it grow, and really get into the game. The short and the medium games just don't allow you to do that. Especially not the short one. You're lucky if you've built a picket fence for 1 dinosaur, and then suddenly the game ends. It's just it's not good enough. Long game though, so much better. This is just the retail version, unfortunately, so I've just got normal components. However, Liquid Extreme Kickstarter, all the upgrade components, including those coins, which literally are could kill you if I hit you with them. They're so weighty. And the expansion and that 2-player Duelosaur game or something. Basically, I missed out on the first Kickstarter. I then went and grabbed this on retail. I thought, let's try it. I can't remember if I think I got it. Yeah, I got it as a no, I don't think I got this as a review copy. I had to buy it myself. I just thought, fine, I'll buy a retail copy and try it out. Loved it. Go check out my review if you want me to hear me praise this even more. But I cannot wait for the Kickstarter stuff to come through. The expansion or the opponents. The only thing I dread, and it's the one I dread with this game at the moment, is that the box is not big enough to fit everything in. They really do need a big giant crate for this. But that aside, love this game. Such a good Euro game. An example of how you can have a relatively meaty Euro game, but keep it streamlined so that it remains, relatively short. 2 hours for a long game is pretty good length, and fun still and engaging throughout. Very little downtime, great look, great theme. What can I say? Love Dinosaur Island. The highest debut to the Top 100 at number 7. Just looking over my stats a little second ago, coincidentally, Seven Wonders Duel was the highest Antoine Bowser game, and Abyss was the highest Bruno Cathala game. So both of those designers have featured a lot on my list, and two of their games, one of their games each is in my top 10. So, we applaud you both. Here now we get on to, Nikki Valens, I think, is the designer. I don't know how often they feature. Probably not too many times, but I think once or twice they featured on the list because they do a lot for Fantasy Flight games. This is my second favourite, get it right, Cthulhu game. This is a reprint of they had a first edition a while back, and now they've got a second edition. They put an app with it. The app is the best app implementation for a board game to date, bar none. And I said high praise of XCOM earlier. This is the way it should be done. Complete perfect integration for atmosphere, for helping with the fiddly rules, for adding the maps, for just adding story and immersion. It works so well. I was not a fan of the first edition, I have to admit, because it just it was too clunky. But this one, oh yes. Oh, heavy box, because I've got everything for this game. Woohoo! Mansions of madness, mansions of loveness, mansions of whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I have to have 2 boxes for this because now everything fits in one box anymore. Oh, love this game. This is, like I say, it's my second favourite Cthulhu game, so I wonder which other one is yet to come. I think you probably guessed it, but I'll put this one down here for a sec. Mansions of Madness. Yes, this is the closest I get to liking the dungeon crawl. I don't really call it a dungeon crawl, I call it more of an adventure game, but I can see the argument both ways. But this is as close as I will get to coming back to the dungeon crawl genre, because I've kind of burnt out on those. Check out my top 10 turkeys, there's for more information. But with Mansions of Madness, oh yes. The scenarios, you've got scenarios in all the expansions, they're lengthy, they're involved, they're great. You can have DLC content, so they can just add more scenarios in as time goes on. You've got some of the most beautiful artwork with, like creepy artwork with the surrounding map tiles. There's so many of them. In fact, I think most of this box is taken up with map tiles. That's how many there are. Speaking of which, have a good way to sort them out, otherwise it's quite fiddly. And when you play through, you have that great Cthulhu sense of the mystery, the horror, the immersion. You get to fight all sorts of cool monsters. The app integrates story elements to things like combat and horror checks. So it's not just simply you see a ghoul, do a horror check. No, it's you see a ghoul and its face melds into the face of your late granddad or something, and it starts growing fangs and comes towards you, and that will be your horror check. And that's one of many different things that can happen. So it just adds something cool and different. Even the combat is cool in this. It's like, right, I'm going to attack unarmed with the priest. Okay? Normally you would just say, I attack the ghoul priest, roll a die, done. Nope, here the app even mentions things like, you sweep under, you dart under its haymaker and then you try and do a back kick to its face or something. It gives you a bit more extra immersion with a little bit of musical accompaniment as well. I've got a TV on the wall up there. I like to put it on there when I play this. And to be fair, I do 95% of the time play this solo. This is not a game I recommend for doing with big groups all the time, just because of the sheer length it takes when you play it with too many players. But I'll play it with 2, 3 now and again, but I love this solo. Just control 3 investigators, 2 or 3 investigators, which is not that fiddly. You know, you've got stats and items for each, but apart from that, it's pretty easy to control. And then I can just set everything up, have the music, have the ambience. The scenarios are challenging, they're tricky. The one minor flaw is that I do wish that they gave you more time to do stuff, because there is a ticking clock and you're kind of forced to really rush through the scenarios as opposed to just take your time. But that adds a bit of tension. It means that you must get a move on. You can't possibly check out everything, so you can come back, and because the maps rejig themselves, even though the story is similar or the same, the locations change, so you can't always think, oh yeah, when I go into the next room, that's going to come out there and I'll just wait for that. No, because it might be a completely different layout. So it adds to the replay value. But even then, it'll take a while just to go through all these scenarios once. And every single time, I enjoy it. Each expansion has added more investigators, more scenarios, which have been great fun, more components. Storage is becoming a bit of an issue, but like I say, and weight. God, it's quite a heavy box. But yes, love this. This kicks the schnot out of the first edition of Mansions of Madness. Bye-bye first edition. Hail second edition Mansions of Madness at where are we at? Number 6. In fact, where was it last time? It was at number 8. It's climbed 2 places. Still as popular as it was. My number 5 hasn't moved. It was my number 5 last year. It's my number 5 this year. Still one of my favourite Euro games that exists. It's not my favourite Euro game. There is one more yet to come. But yeah, this one. Granted, it's not for everyone. I can see why people don't like it. And it's highly popular. But there are some people who don't like this game. I can see why. But for me, I love this 2 bits. I have the full Kickstarter version of this. I have metal coins, realistic components, the beautiful artwork board, the mechs, the characters, the elegant rules, the streamlining. I love everything about this game. I just want to get it out right now. Oh God, here we go. Here we go. The legendary box for, there you go, Scythe. I know not everybody is a huge fan of Scythe, but it's got its fans. I'm playing through the Fenris campaign actually as we speak. I'm recording this on Bank Holiday Monday, so today I hope to be getting through the last 6 games of the 8 episode campaign, or at least the vast majority of them. And so far, very good. But there will be a review of that. But the Scythe game, even without that, even if it's just the base game, I don't even need the 2 extra factions or the Wind Gambit rules, even though they are an improvement. The base game alone, I love how smooth this game plays. You have your board, you're on the sprawling map, it's area control and resource gathering, so it's more of an engine builder. You get a little bit of combat here and there, but not loads. It's more of a side thing that you can do for, to accelerate the game. And I think that's where some people fall flat on. They were hoping for like big combat with mechs or something. And it's like, if you want that, go play Mech Warrior or something. But for me, I'm more glad that this is an engine building style, resource gathering, area control Euro. But it's so smooth. You've got the factions that play very differently. You've got the player map boards, which you randomize every game. They influence how you play because they've got different variable setups. Love that in a game. And then on top of this, everything just seems so smooth. You choose one of the 4 columns. You can't choose 2 in a row unless said otherwise. The red faction. And you do the top action, and then if you can, do the bottom action. That's it. Next player, move on. You think about, by the time it gets back around to you, which next action you want to do. And unless you're playing red, you only have 3 choices to do, so it only takes so much time to do, but you're thinking ahead as well. I want to move, but then I need to produce, but then maybe I should trade for it instead. But if I don't get the resources, I can't then do the upgrade action later. And you're constantly planning ahead for how you're going to do your future turns. And depending on your board and your faction, that will change every game as well. The campaign, as I said, the Fenris one, has so far gone very well. I haven't checked out every bit of content for it yet, but so far I'm seeing what additions it's adding for modules, and maybe this could go higher than 5 next year. I don't know. So far so good, but if these mods are as good as I hope they are, it could elevate this game even more. But like I say, how much higher can it go than 5? It's already in a legendary box. And I've got, the wooden insert for it, the Kickstarter stuff. There's just... The only thing I'm not a fan of with this is I'm not a big fan of the solo mode. I don't tend to play this for solo. The rules are a bit fiddly, but I don't particularly care. I've got enough games I want to play solo. This, I like to play with anything from 3 to 7 players. 7 players who know what they're doing in this game. It can go very quickly and smoothly. I have done a 7 player in 90 minutes before. It is possible. And that's another thing. The game is not long. A game should not... If a game takes more than 2 hours, you've got people who are new or they're going slow with AP. It shouldn't go longer than 2 hours, because most of my games don't. But, I can chuck out, let's see, the first 2 games in the campaign we did of this, I'm only doing it with 3 of us, because it's hard to get people to commit to 8 episode campaigns. But the 3 of us that are doing it, we played 2 games, each game took us 70 minutes. 70 minutes. And granted, that was mainly because we were chatting, and because we were checking out the new rules for the campaign as we went. I was reading the backstory, and also one person had only played it like once or twice or something. So, I don't deny that a 3-player game of this can go in an hour. It's so... It doesn't overstay its welcome. It looks the part. It's streamlined and elegant. I'm probably repeating myself here, but like I say, it's hard to describe. It's just a solid resource gathering Euro, and this is a kind of thing I like. Area control I like, but I like resource gathering. Resource gathering is a mechanic I like in a lot of Euros. The whole sort of, I'll farm and get this, and use it to produce something else. You can decide what route you want to take. It's not quite sandbox, but you decide in the game, you know what? I feel like going for upgrades this time. So I'm going to upgrade my whole board so everything's cheap. This game I'll go build. Now I'll go enlist. Now all my neighbours are giving me cool stuff, and you have to kind of react to what your neighbours are doing as well. What are the opponents doing? But, it just works so nicely. Add in objectives, encounter cards, for the thematic, choose out of 3 options, the good, the neutral, or the evil option. Which do you want to do? Love this game so much. This is a solid Euro. I can understand completely if you're not a fan. But those of you who are fans can agree with me. This is a solid Euro. I don't often ride the hype train for a lot of games, but for me, this one lived up to, well, mostly lived up to the hype. It's very difficult for any game to live up to the amount of hype it gets. But like I say, it's my 5th favourite game of all time. So, did the job with me. Safe. My number 4 also hasn't moved. It's the same as it was last year. I'm a fan of the LCG format. I think it works better than the CCG format because at least even though I'm spending a lot of money, I know what I'm getting. I can tailor my purchases if I want to. However, in recent years, I have to admit, I'm less favourable about the competitive LCG model. Game of Thrones, Netrunner, Warhammer Conquest, Legend of the Five Rings, that kind of thing. They're good games. I used to love Netrunner, but I gave it up eventually because the problem with competitive LCGs is that if you don't keep up with the cards, you're going to suck. Unless you're really playing this casually, you're just going to get left behind. People who play this regularly are just going to wipe the floor of you. And it's not good that you're forced to go, keep up with it. Co-op LCGs, however, mean I can go at my own pace. If I want to buy all the packs, I can. If I don't have to. Because at the end of the day, I'm playing a scenario in the game. I play it by myself. I can play this with 2 or 4 players if I want, and I have done dabble with both, but I love this as a solo experience. This is my favourite Cthulhu game though. Mansions of Madness, very close, but no, I have to give the edge to... Okay, that doesn't really help exactly, but that's just the lid of the box I keep the cards in. But in terms of the actual cards themselves, like the player cards, let's get the folder up, here we go, yes. Arkham Horror, the living card game. I love this Cthulhu themed LCG. Ever since its inception, I have been involved with this game. It is highly entertaining. The artwork, again, even though some of it is recycled, it's still beautiful, creepy artwork. But the storytelling in this LCG is amazing. You get the scenarios and it goes through the acts and you read the flavor text and all the locations and all the quests. Well, not quests, sorry, the scenarios. And it flows, it gets you immersed. And it's amazing what they're doing with the scenarios. Not every scenario is a hit. Some of them have been duds. but you might have a scenario where you go into a museum and you've got to somehow decide, are you going to break the door down or are you going to talk to the guard? Once in, you then have this hunting horror that's chasing you around the place. You know, you've got to fend it off. How do I get through the exhibits? I've got to search for the one exhibit that has the Necronomicon in. There's one scenario. Then the next one, you're on a train, a train that is stopped dead. There's a giant vortex behind you that's sucking in all the carriages, and you have to go through this thin line of carriages from the back to the front in time before the carriage gets ripped off and sucked into the vortex, all while dealing with other monsters. There's all sorts of different scenarios this can throw in, different plot elements, different surprises, plot twists, and I love how when you go through the cycle, you have story-driven elements to decide upon. So you finish one scenario, like for example, I'm doing Forgotten Age, the newest one, and it's got a kind of Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider style thing to it, but in between each mission, you have to decide what supplies you're going to take, and you have so many supply points. Do I want blankets, bedrolls, a piece of chalk, a map, a compass, a binoculars? You know, you're going to go into the jungle exploring. What do I want to take? But you can only take so much. So you make your decisions, and then on various cards throughout the scenarios, it says, if you have chalk, either suffer no ill effects, or get this bonus. But then it could be a case of, did you bring a lantern with you? No? Well, then you're going to suffer a penalty in here because unfortunately you can't see jack in this cave. And you can't take everything, but you have to tailor what it is. And granted, yeah, once you've played it through, you'll have an idea of what pops up. But it's not in the sense that you're going to say, well, I better take this lot. No, because you're going to get hosed by something eventually. But it really does add a great deal of immersion. And the deck building is very simple in this. You only have, I think, a 30 card, I think it's only a 30 card deck, 30 or 40. No, I think it's 30. And with this one, I think it varies by investigator, but you can only have up to 2 copies of any card, and it's only a 30 card deck. So it doesn't actually take a lot of deck building skill to make a deck. Granted, you've got to make one that works, but if you just want to get a bunch of cards and try and make a deck, you can do it in relatively quick time, and it can still be reasonably competitive. It is challenging though. It is quite hard, and this is one flaw I have with the game, which is why it falls below certain other ones, is that the chaos bag, where you put your hand in and draw a token for a modifier for skill tests, that's cool, it adds to the tension, and you can tweak that bag and tweak your chances, but it does add a bit of a luck element to the game outside of a die roll, which occasionally is great, but occasionally can just hose you at the right moment. It keeps things challenging, adds to the story, and even though you may fail a scenario, it does not mean that you can't progress, it just means you may not have as many bonuses going on ahead. So it's not like, oh, I failed, right, rinse, repeat, gotta go again. No, you can just carry on. But, you know, that dice bag luck can get a little bit jarring at times. But other than that small thing aside, love the way this plays, love the way it looks. It's a solid hit. Not my favourite LCG though. My number 3 has dropped 1 place. Dropped 1 place, it was number 2, now it's number 3. Does it really make that much of a difference? I still love this game. It's still my personal favourite LCG of the bunch. I already showed you one, so let me show you the other one. I was playing it last night actually, quite a lot of it, so it's kind of all over the place at the moment. Lord of the Rings. Yes, Lord of the Rings, the card game. I've got a massive box for it. I've got 2 of these folders full of cards. And I didn't even start when, by the time I even started blogging, Lord of the Rings had been out for 2 years. And I didn't start Lord of the Rings until probably a year or 2 after that. And I was far behind. But I have got cards for this game all over the place. All the different spheres. Ah, yes. I've caught up now with the releases, at least for the most part. You can get nightmare decks. Don't really care about them. The game's hard enough as it is. And, some of these special sort of side decks, I've got some of them, but not all of them. Not too fast. The main thing, however, is that I've at least got all the decks from the current cycles, and I'm still far behind. There's still 2 cycles I haven't played through at all, and I'm still finishing off another one. But it doesn't matter. I've got all the cards to choose from to build my decks, but I can just go at my own pace. So what if I haven't finished a cycle? I'll get to that story eventually. It's not like I'm falling behind in rankings or anything like that. There's no tournaments per se. But oh yes, this one overtakes the Arkham Horror one. And I was umming and ahhing at first, but nah, Lord of the Rings had to take this post because, firstly, theme. Love Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is such a fantastic movie trilogy. I love Lord of the Rings, and the card game encapsulates the theme from Lord of the Rings so well. Choose your heroes. Do you want to play through quests based on the lore of Tolkien? Or do you want to go through the movies? You can actually play the quests as per the movies. Start off with Frodo and his hobbit friends trying to escape the Black Riders, and then eventually move on to chasing the orcs, towards Isengard, or to defeating Shelob, which I haven't done yet. She keeps eating me. Hate him. But it's a much more challenging game. It's probably more challenging than Arkham Horror, to be honest. There are some quests that can just hose you down. And the deck building is definitely trickier because you can have up to 3 copies of a card and you must build a 50 card deck. So it is more complex, definitely, I think, than Arkham Horror LCG. But the quests, like I say, the story with them is really well done. You can have some really good tense moments, but it really gets your brain thinking. I've got these heroes, I've got these allies, I've got these cards. I know that encounter deck could throw something in my works. I know that enemy's going to charge me next turn. There's not as much luck. Yes, you've got the luck of the encounter deck, but then you have that in Arkham Horror LCG as well. But you don't roll a die here. The most luck influence you have is a shadow card for combat, which may or may not add a little bit of a bonus to the opponent. That's it. You don't roll a die for combat. It's not like, right, Aragorn goes and tries to slay the Black Rider. Roll a die, 4 or higher you hit. No, it's just what's my attack value versus his defense and hit points. Compare the two, there you go, it's deterministic. So that works a lot in its favour. But, as I say, you've got such a good variety with the quest now. It's been going on for years and years, and it's only improving more as the game goes on. Mechanics are getting more streamlined, they're coming up with cool ideas for how to do quests and make them different and varied. I mean, I said Arkham Horror had a lot of variants. This has got a lot as well. Ignoring all the saga stuff. You might be tracking Gollum through Mirkwood. Nope, this time you're racing across a desert as orcs chase you and they catch up with you, and suddenly you start having to have a battle before you try and get away from them again. The scenario I played yesterday that gave me several heart attacks. Friends of mine have been taken away underground desert caves by a giant broodmother spider and her broodlings, and I had to go and save them. Yeah, it gave me a few heart attacks playing that one. But, and then next you have to go and infiltrate a city while defeating this big, this massive guardian guy and getting his banners. And that's just the cycle I'm in. I've got another cycle where I'm fighting dragons. There's another one where I was sailing ships and exploring lost islands. There's a lot of variety in this game. And it's challenging. The artwork is beautiful. It was hazy back at the start, but as time has gone on, the artwork just gets better and better. The combos, the decks you can make, there's so much variety in this game, and it has, in my opinion, the best online community of any game. Any of the games. Some of the CCG ones, you can get some pretty, some hostile replies on there when you get competitive. But because this is cooperative, you don't get that. The Lord of the Rings LCG online community on Facebook, FFG or whatever is some of the friendliest people I have ever seen. Ask a question, it'll get answered. They don't think less of you for it. There's no stupid question. As long as you're not up there going whining and moaning or anything, then fine. You kind of get what you deserve then. But, you just ask a straight question or just talk about what you're playing, what you like about the game, what you don't like about the game. People will just answer courteously, whatever. They such a good community. So, yeah, Lord of the Rings LCG. It's dropped a place, but to be honest, my 2 and 3 were so similar, it was so hard to rank them. And, at the end of the day, an algorithm had to decide between 2 and 3. You could put these on equal footing. I love this game so much. I've been getting a lot of plays of it lately when I've had spare time. Lord of the Rings LCG, my favourite of the LCG range. My number 2 has shot up one place. Yes, like I said, the 2 and the 3 swapped places. This is my favourite Euro game of all time. And Jamie Stenmeyer has got, Stonemaier Games has got something to be proud of. I don't like all of their games. In fact, these are the 2 games I kind of like from them. Not a fan of Between Two Cities, and Euphoria kind of was a bit unbalanced and went away quite quickly, So I don't love all their games. I am not a Stonemaier fanboy. But Scythe, I really love. And this one, I love even more. This takes one of my favourite themes you can put into a board game based on real life And even though it's not 100% represented, you've got to have a suspension of disbelief in one or two aspects. It's just such a nice, pleasant Euro game. Almost my kind of Zen-like game, like I mentioned before. It just makes me feel calm. I love the theme. The expansion, though, is what has made this go to number 2 or even go into my top 10. When I first put this on the list, it was in my 40s, and that was before it had an expansion. But as soon as the expansion came out, oh my god, it's amazing now. Better board, structures, more ways to get points, replacement cards, mini expansions that have come out with even more cards for the visitors. It looks beautiful, it's a fantastic theme. I cannot say enough good stuff about Viticulture. Viticulture specifically with that Tuscany expansion. This is the collector box set, so I haven't got in on that whole essentials craze. But yeah, I love Viticulture. I like wine in general. The art of winemaking is interesting to me. I already had Vinos Deluxe on lower in the list, so winemaking is a theme I can gravitate towards. But this one, again, elegant, streamlined, not too long. You make a Euro like that, there's a good chance I will like it, particularly if you attach a good theme to it. A game of this shouldn't take you longer than a couple of hours unless you have slow players. And granted, don't play this with 5 or 6, it's a bit too long. But solo I've enjoyed it, but 2, 3 or 4 players, this is a blast to play. Deciding, right, with that expansion, you need that expansion board though. You really do. You need the 4 seasons, you need the wake up chart. When do I want to wake up in the morning, turn order wise, which bonuses do I want? You've then got the visitor cards. Do you put influence on that little map to get points and bonuses? Do you make wine orders? Or do you decide, I don't need to make wine orders, I'm just going to do cheap wine. Quick and easy, not as many points, but if I do it regularly enough, I'll get some money. Do you get all your workers? Or do you just sort of go, I don't need as many, it takes time. Should I concentrate on getting the big wine orders, the big fancy wine orders? Or maybe just go for the lesser ones that aren't worth as much, but are quicker to make, a quick and easy white wine versus a sparkling 9, And then the structures. I've had a game where I didn't make a single wine bottle. I literally managed to get 2 structures. I think there was a restaurant and a cafe or something like that. And I made the whole game was just me selling grapes and, like very cheap bottles. No, grapes and various other things for points. I just ran a cafe and restaurant and got influence over the map. And that was my game. And I managed to win with it. I didn't have to make a single wine. But then there'll be another game where I focused entirely on wine and do well. There's multiple paths to victory. Looks the business with the extra components and that. You've got wooden components all over the place. It's colourful. I've got drawstring bags for this now to hold the various player stuff. Metal coins. They look amazing. It's just love playing this game so much. I know there's a big caveat that in order to be this high, it must have Tuscany. I may not necessarily jump in on the game of this unless you are playing this with Tuscany. And I don't mean all the modules. One of my favourite ones, you must have the board. You must have the orange structures. You must have the replacement visitor cards and the advanced ones as well. You can use the varied workers. I can take it or leave it, those. You must have mamas and papas. Definitely. Nice asymmetrical start. Don't care about the whole mafia thing. That's a load of rubbish. And I don't care about the new boards making cheese and olive oil and that. You can do without those. But all those other modules you need. You put those in and I have one of the best Euro experiences I can ever have. Such an enjoyable Euro game. Just perfect theme, streamlined. Doesn't take too long. Easy to teach. Easy to play. Harder to master. But great variety each game. Everybody just gets into it. You can get immersed in the theme. You can make jokes. Hell, go and actually play this game with a bottle of wine near you and just get into it even more. One of my favourite experiences I can imagine. I actually did this. Had a game of viticulture with Tuscany and there was wine and there was a cheese board as well. So we had wine and cheese to enjoy with a game of viticulture. It just suits it perfectly. Can't say much more about it. It's just solid. With all those bits added, it is my favourite Eurogame experience. Number 2. So number 1. Yeah, you saw it coming. A number 1 game. Yeah. It was actually, there was a risk of this falling. It was my number 1 last year, number 1 the year before, and the year before that. It is continuously my favourite game, always. And I almost and ahed this going down the list. It almost got replaced. You know, I was almost thinking, could Viticulture beat this? Could Lord of the Rings card game actually beat this now? But no, as I thought about it, I had to say that Gloomhaven is just that good. I just had to put it at number 1. It deserves all the awards it got. Okay, I can't do it anymore. All right, stop it.
You're going to burn in a very special level of hell.
Nah, a lot of you called this. Now, previously last year, I got it from behind me. It's not there anymore. That's because... Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. This giant crate now holds my collection of Sentinels of the Multiverse. I still absolutely adore this game. And it's hard to say. I know not everybody likes it. Perfectly fine. I know it has a lot of bookkeeping involved. Fine. That's, you know, it's a flaw of the game, I admit. But I've gotten used to it now, so it's not as big of a problem for me. But nothing represents superheroes, one of my favourite themes ever, better than Sentinels of the Multiverse. A card game that isn't a deck builder either. Unlike the Marvel one, where it's like you're just deck building with these different heroes. No, this time it's like, I want to be Legacy. I want to be that guy. I want his deck. Look, I have his deck. I play in his playstyle. And with the variant heroes, I can now say, ooh, do I want to use the original Legacy or do I want to use Daughter Legacy? Do I want to use Alternate Timeline Legacy? Do I want to use the 1940s Legacy? You know, you've got all these different variants. The replay value in this game, as I've got all the expansions, has reached astronomical levels. I can pick any combination of heroes, villains, environments that I want and have a completely different experience. The recent expansion, Oblivion, that came out, granted, didn't quite measure up to what I was hoping it would be, but occasionally I will play that really epic scenario of basically doing Infinity War the card game, and I'll have a blast. It'll just take a while, which is why I really only play it solo or with a lot of players who want to play it as a big event. But even that aside, all the villains that you've got are great. You can have the mini villain teams. It's just something about no game as a co-op represents playing a superhero team better than this. It just doesn't. And with this box, I've now got so much content. This thing that I got from the Kickstarter has, you know, all the tokens, all the cards, the oversized, you know, villain cards. It's got everything sleeved. I've got dividers. In fact, let me just pull the thing out here. Yeah, that's just environments. Environments and a few mini villains. That's all that's in that drawer alone. I can just whip out, let's see, where do I want to fight first? Court of Blood, you know, vampire place. Do I want to fight in the Final Wasteland? Maybe the Freedom Tower. Maybe back in the Jurassic era. Magmaria, you know, Lava Planet. Perhaps Nexus of the Void, whatever that is. Omnitron's Planet. An industrial complex, you know. Rook City. Ruins of Atlantis. Time cataclysms, you know. And that's just for environments. I've got heroes. I've got villains. I've got more villains and heroes. So much for this wonderful thematic game. And it's just, yes, there is bookkeeping involved with the things, but the hit points and that. But I've gotten used to that now. I can play this solo, free heroes. I have 3 heroes, sometimes even 4, and I just pilot them all. Granted, that's not for everybody. This is one of those games that I will play solo more often, but I'll play it on the app. I'll play it with 3 or 4 human players. I might not even sit in the game. I'll just watch it because the story just unfolds with every play. Nothing makes me feel like I feel like I'm in the Marvel and DC like series, you know, a Netflix series or even the movies, and I'm just replaying out the scenes in my head. You know, as you're going through this, you've got the 4 heroes, you've got this environment and this villain. What's the story? You just kind of picture it in your head. And you have to work as a team. There is no Lone Ranger in this. One hero cannot do the entire thing by themselves. They need support from each other. So that cooperative aspect is super strong. You can't Lone Ranger it. And because you've got your cards in your hand, there's only so much you can alpha game as well because that person can't see the cards that you're in your hand. But again, alpha gamer is a player issue, not necessarily a game issue. I was umming and ahhing. I honestly was. People will call, oh, this was my number one last year, it's going to be the number one this year. I almost contemplated not putting this at number one. It's had a fair amount of plays lately, but yeah, I have to admit, you know, the Oblivion scenario was not the biggest thing that ever had for it, and, oh, sorry, the sun's a bit bright over there, but it just works. I love the way this plays. I love the artwork. You know, people sort of rag on the artwork, you know, oh, I don't like this artwork, it's, you know, it's horrible, it's, you know, it's all weird and cartoony. That's part of the appeal. It's comic book style. It fits the style and theme perfectly. And I like it. It's vibrant and it's colourful. Yes, it's not digitally enhanced or like the best artwork ever, but it fits the theme and still looks nice. So I'm all cool for it. But just that wonderful amount of variety, the sense of teamwork, the co-op nature, the fact it's superheroes, all the superheroes play so differently. You know, I am Legacy, I am Captain America / Superman, and I'm bolstering my allies and giving them damage and hit point bonuses, that kind of thing. Now I'm the Naturalist. I'm a shapeshifter. I can change into a rhino, a deer, or a crocodile, depending on the needs of the game. I am now Luminary. I am a previous villain turned good, purely for the idea of taking down the bigger threat. But I have all these devices. I create mechanical devices and super death lasers from outer space, and I use that to damage my opponent. Now I'm Expatriate. I have no superpowers, but I have a lot of guns. I'm the Punisher made into a card game. Give me a gun, an M16, I'll take out the supervillain with that. There's so much theme. So nice. I love this game. I know it's not for everyone. Fine. You hate it? Fine. I know the guy who runs Aircon, Mark Cook, you know, he loves ragging me on me for this. You know, he loves to torture me with the whole, this game is shocking, it's horrible, it's bad. Whatever. You don't like it, that's great. You've got your own opinion, you've got your own favourite game. You know, that's the great thing with the hobby. But it makes me laugh, you know, hearing it. And like I say, I love it. I can't say enough good about it. You know, this, Viticulture, and Lord of the Rings card game, it is so hard to choose between those three in the last couple of years. Because those three games, I just adore so much. It's hard to, I mean, pretty much all these 100 games. And, you know, let's close this up and get to the epilogue, shall we say. You know, all of these games, I love. I love every single game that I have mentioned on my top 100. They're all fantastic games. Ooh, gonna put this down here. Every single one I adore. My top 100. And not just the 100, also the games that missed the list as well, I really enjoy. Not as much as the ones at the top, but still really enjoy. And the next episode, we'll get on to those with the aftermath, where I talk about games that missed the list and fell off the list, and I'll go through them very quickly and just summarise my viewpoints on those. But with all these games, all 100 of these games, love them all. You guys have been fantastic going through this. I have been absolutely blown away by how many views these videos have been getting compared to the last couple of years, how much dialogue has been exchanged on the comments. People are telling me what games they like, don't like, what games they personally have in that kind of section. You know, I've had so much banter with these people, and I love it. I love this engagement. But whether you love or hate these games, as I keep saying in every episode I do of this blog, it's only a game. If you don't like them, fine. You love your own games, that's fantastic. If you love these games, fantastic. We agree on something, but we don't have to. You know, there are some people I get on really well with in the board game industry where we have completely different board game tastes. Doesn't matter, because both of us are still passionate about games, we respect each other's opinion, and that's fine with us. We can all carry on as normal human beings. So, that's it for another Top 100. The Top 100 games of 2018. And I feel like I'm getting a Halo Heavenly Light from outside when I was talking about that top one game. That was kind of fitting. But I love doing this list every year. There will be one for 2019. Will it be this format? We'll have to see. It takes a lot of effort to do these. 10 games of 10 to record and edit them. Remember, I do this solo. I don't get paid for this. And it's not easy to do this sort of thing. So it's a lot of effort. But there's just one more video to go. The aftermath. It'll be a relatively quick video. It's not going to be too long. I will just quickly go through the ones that missed the list and just explain briefly what I think of them. That's pretty much all I'll do for the Aftermath, because it's not usually the most popular episode out of this whole top 100 anyway. After this, normal service will resume. There hasn't been many reviews in August because not many good games have been released. You know, literally, you're lucky to get one game every 2 weeks that's worth looking at. So, which is good. It's nice to get a quiet period while I'm doing this, because it gives me more time to do this top 100. But, you know, the podcast is still there. You know, reviews are going to come back as more and more good games get released leading up to Essen. And of course, top 10s are going to resume. So we've got top 10 solo games in the works. We've got top 10 games I love but spent too much money on. That should be a fun list. I'm debating other ideas, like top 10 games I love with bad rulebooks, you know, that kind of thing. You know, and there's other ideas, so keep submitting your top 10 ideas to me. You know, I'd love to get more ideas and see what you guys want. There will be an FAQ video coming out soon where I will go over frequently asked questions and talk about my future ideas for the blog, where I need your guys' feedback. So please tune into that video when I release it, because I need the feedback. I need to know your thoughts, because this is essentially, I do this as a hobby. I do it because I enjoy it, but I also do it on behalf of the people. So, you know, it's nice to hear what you want as well. So, that's it. Throat's getting sore. I'm off down the gym, and then I've got a whole bank holiday of playing Scythe. Yeah, exactly. I get to play my 5th favourite game for the whole day, hopefully. Cannot wait. So, hope you've enjoyed this top 100 list. Thanks for watching. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for your support. Thanks for the compliments. Thanks for everything. It makes it so much easier to go through the hard work and effort that it takes to run a blog, especially a video blog, when I can get the appreciation from you guys that it's not all falling on deaf ears, that somebody is getting enjoyment out of watching it, regardless of what their reason for enjoying it is. So, that's it for me. Take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple episode. And remember, all 100 of these amazing games are still only games. Take care, see you soon, and good day.